Welcome to the full story series right here at Comicstorian. Today we're going to be covering the Last Night series. So basically, when Scott Snyder was done writing his Batman books, he wasn't allowed to end the story of Batman. Last Night on Earth is a what-if story, a story of what if Scott Snyder was allowed to end his run with an official ending. That ending is known as The Last Night on Earth. This originally came out in 3 prestige books in the Black Label line of comic books. So it's a little bit longer than normal, but not super long overall. We brought out each video individually, and so now, to make it easier for you individuals who are looking for this series, we're going to put it into one giant video. That's what our full story series is. We make it easier for you, that way you don't go digging across our channel of like 2,000 something videos. Either way, I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you at the end of the video.
Rain pours down from the sky as the Batmobile races through the streets of Gotham City, nearing Final Destination Alfred. Batman calls over the radio. Alfred acknowledges, letting him know that there is no sign of anyone at the scene. The car moves faster as Batman reviews his file. Every morning for almost a full year, someone has left a chalk line in a 5-foot random line within Gotham. Compiled satellite photos show the reality though, a chalk outline of a body, him, Batman, dead. The car screeches to a stop at the center of Batman's heart, Crime Alley. Stepping from the car into the rain-soaked night, Batman stares into the place where it all began. "I'm not alone," he tells Alfred. Crouched beneath a lamplight, a young boy sits under an umbrella. Batman steps forward, stopping in front of the small figure. "Hello, son. Are you hurt?" he asks. The boy doesn't respond though. Speaking softly, Batman reaches down to lift the umbrella, allowing him to see the boy's face. Shock crosses Batman's face as he stares down at the boy's sightless eyes and slack mouth. But he doesn't move, ignoring Alfred's suggestions to leave the scene. "Signal Jim. Victim appears to be 10, maybe 11, badly decomposed." He begins to rattle off notes that the boy seems to have been posed like this. Alfred tries to warn the Dark Knight as the boy's arms begin to move, and a whirl of gears can be heard over the rain. The gun comes up and it fires. Then there's nothing but darkness. Bruce's eyes snap open, staring up at the bright lights above him. Someone is calling his name and he tries to speak, but the words come out in a labored breath. His limbs are tied fast, his head immobile. He calls for Alfred, asking if anyone is there. Suddenly a face is peering over him, a face with a big smile. "Bruce Wayne, my lord, you're right here and it's finally over." He smiles. Bruce stares at the man who looks so much like his worst enemy, and he struggles to speak. "Take it easy, Bruce. Your speech, your motor functions, they'll all come back soon. Just relax." The man in the lab coat tells him, a purple flower in his lapel. "You're tricking me, playing joke." Bruce struggles, his eyes glaring. The man explains that they aren't tricking him. This is the first time in years that he isn't being tricked. They tried dozens of therapeutic options over the years, tried everything to reach him, but finally he is here with them. "We are so happy to meet you." The doctor smiles, introducing himself. "Dr. Redmond Hudd. I've been your doctor for over 20 years. In Arkham Asylum." Bruce tries to struggle against the bond, screaming for them to let him out. Dr. Hudd tries to calm him, telling him that someone wants to meet him as he raises the hospital bed. Shock races through Bruce's body as he stares at Alfred, his faithful butler standing in the door before him. "Bruce, is that really you?" He crosses the room, standing before his young charge. Bruce looks down at the man that has been a father to him. "Alfred, please, take me home." He struggles. The old man smiles. He assures Bruce that they will finally be going home after this long nightmare. "You are forgiven," he assures him, yet Bruce is confused. He doesn't understand. Sadness fills Alfred's voice as he looks at the ground. "I'm sorry, Bruce. I thought you understood." He begins. "You killed your parents that night in Crime Alley." Anger flares inside of Bruce and he screams. This isn't Alfred. He's being tricked. Alfred meets his anger with his own, pulling back the hospital curtain to reveal the workers. He stares at the men and women of Arkham, the people who look familiar, like the villains of his nightmares. But Bruce refuses to listen. He knows one of his rogues must have done this. Alfred turns away, disappointment and sadness in his voice. Dr. Hudd reassures him that it will take some time. Bruce calls out to Alfred not to leave him as Hudd gives him a sedative and he slips back into the darkness. He awakens again in a padded cell. his mind snapping back quickly, and he begins to move around the room, trying to find the mistake, the weak point that will allow his escape. He finds it, a torn seam, a rip in the fabric. He begins to work, opening it further. From within, he pulls out a penny and a small dinosaur. No! He screams in anger. I don't believe you! I'll never believe you! He screams as he begins to thrash and tear apart the walls. Later, Bruce sits in front of Alfred in the visitor's room, his eyes calm, almost empty. It's been days, sir. How long before you accept it? He asks. Bruce just looks at him. Why do I know Greek? And Mandarin? He asks simply. And Alfred sighs. He was taught by the asylum librarian, Elliot. Why do I know how to fight? Alfred rubs his nose out of aspiration. He was taught by Dr. Algo before he almost drowned him in the whirlpool, thinking that it was some kind of magical well. He sighs. Alfred finally looks back at the young man that he loves like a son. He'll do anything for as long as it takes. But he wants him to know that he brought him something in hopes that it would help. Bruce leans forward. It's your cowl, Alfred tells him. And he reaches underneath the table, pulling out a long, straight jacket with a cowl of Batman sewn into the head. Here is Batman, Alfred tells him. Bruce stares down at the piece of headgear as Alfred explains that this is the jacket that he wore for a long time, that the cowl is a part of a simple shock therapy restraint. Bruce's words come out in a stammer. He just doesn't know. He looks down at the jacket before him, and Alfred leans forward, taking his son's hand into his own. He needs Bruce to understand. He needs him to see so that they can go home together. Finally, Bruce looks up, determination in his eyes. I'm gonna need that suit back right now. He moves fast. He made it to the 3rd floor in 5 minutes, orderlies and guards falling beneath his fist. In 7 minutes, he is on the 9th floor. They hesitate as they see the man in a straitjacket with a bat cowl on his head, and they fall. He moves through them quickly, the jacket's belt fluttering behind him like a cape. He takes a baton to the guards on floor 9 and a belt from Sergeant Bullock on 10th floor. Captain Gordon on the 11th floor tries to talk to him. Remember me, son? The talk's on the rooftops, he asks. But Bruce isn't listening. He takes his boots. At this point, he's made it to the 12th floor, and with nowhere else to go, Alfred calls to him to stop. He whirls around, lightning flashing in the windows. I figured out your secret, Alfred. Why did you do it? The guards stand behind Alfred, the weapons aimed. And finally, Alfred tells them to leave, to give him and Bruce time alone. Lightning flashes again, and Bruce calms, lowering his weapons as Alfred steps through to the bell tower. Why? Sadness fills Alfred's voice as he steps forward, finally giving him the truth. Beyond the window is nothing. Bruce turns, staring out into the stormy night he doesn't understand. No Gotham, no friends, no world. It is all gone. Bruce continues to stare before finally realizing the truth. I failed. What happened? But Alfred doesn't answer. He needs Bruce to understand. He is finally free. That is why Alfred made all of this. No mission left to accept except that to live. To be who you never got to be, he says with tears in his eyes. Bruce turns to the man that he has known as his father for almost his entire life. Let me see. The hologram shimmers before it drops, revealing the face of an elderly man, sadness in his eyes. I'm so sorry. It's good to see you, old friend. Alfred looks away, wiping a tear from his eye. It was my heartbeat, wasn't it? He asks. Bruce nods. You can tell that Alfred was older than he appeared when they took each other's hands. He tries to explain. He built all of this for Bruce. Parts of Gotham, a manor, all for him. Bruce puts on the mask, asking his friend to come with him, but Alfred can't. He is too old, and not after everything that has happened. Take something with you, though. Take the blasted penny, he sighs. And finally, Bruce asks, why am I not old? Why do I feel young and strong? Alfred knows that the answer will upset him. He'll leave soon after, so he asks for one last favor. Let me hold you one last time. Let me hold the boy that I love. The two hug, as father and son. And as the sun burns on the dry dirt of the earth, suddenly the ground begins to crumble and a hand rips free, stretching upward into the light. Batman gasps as he pulls himself free of the earth, and he turns. The world around him is a barren wasteland. A pole sits up from the sand, a lantern dangling from it, swaying in the wind. He moves forward, staring at it briefly before blowing off the dust. It is there that he discovers the head of the Joker laying in a lantern, his eyes closed, his lips still pulled into a hideous smile. Who's there? The clown screams as his eyes open up. Batman pulls back, his fist coming into a defensive position. Wait! The knock-knock comes first, doesn't it? Batman doesn't understand. How is he? Alive? No idea. you alive? I don't care, because you came back to me! Oh, Bats, I'd hug you right now. I mean, if I wasn't a head in a jar. Right! Wait! I'm gonna say manly! Batman stares at his former enemy, asking who did this to him, but Joker just laughs. He can't even remember. Strange lightning suddenly crashes around them and Batman turns to see the strange stormy skies. But I know some things, the Joker cries. Just take me with you and I'll tell you everything. Batman reaches out, unhooking the lantern as Joker explains to him about the Speed Force storms, that they need to watch out for them, and the two begin their trek through the sands. Just like old times, Batman and a noggin. Am I right, Bats? 2 days pass as Batman and Joker cross the barren world to reach Coast City. Batman stands in the crater of one of the final battles of this fallen world. In the distance, the corpse of Mogo the Living Planet hangs in the sky. The two stand there as Joker tries to remember the events that took place. His mind is shattered and he remembers very little. Merely that Brainiac leached Mogo to death, and lantern rings were raining from the sky. Batman suddenly turns as an emerald light begins to shine on them, yet this is not a hero, and massive Green Lantern babies come stomping through the shattered ruins around them. Do I hear babies? I love babies! The Joker laughs as Batman grabs his jar, leaping away. The babies try to smash the hero as he leaps through the air. The wielders of the rings are dragged behind the constructs, their willpower too weak to control anything. He cartwheels around another construct, striking its wielder in the face with the Joker's jar. Hey, watch the glass! I'm just trying to help! The babies converge on Batman with the Joker asking, "What's the master plan? I'm waiting for it to unleash!" Quiet, I'm thinking, Batman hisses. He turns, one of the baby constructs raising its massive infant fist above them. Suddenly, the babies then begin to fall as rounds pierce their chests. Batman turns as a voice calls out to him from an armored personnel carrier. He steps forward and Vixen appears from one of the hatches, pulling him in. Get in before more slingers show up, she orders him. The vehicle rumbles forward and Batman looks up to see Poison Ivy is driving. You've got a lot of nerve dressing like that, Vixen says, looking him up and down. Who are you? Go on, say it. Say I'm Batman, you know you want to. Joker whispers from the jar, and Batman tells him, shut up. Vixen peers closely at the hero, her eyes widening as she realizes that he might be the real Batman. Ivy glances back before raising an arm and sending a vine to knock him unconscious. When he awakens, it's to the sounds of voices echoing throughout a strange cavern. Purple amethyst crystals make up the walls around him as he comes to, his mask gone. Crystals forming around his hands, Bruce begins to struggle. The more you struggle, the faster it grows. A voice calls out to him, suddenly pointing a sharp blade into his face. Now tell me who you really are. Vixen orders, her spear at his throat. A voice orders her to stop, and from the shadows strides a warrior woman. Batman stares up into the helmet of Dr. Fate, but it is Diana who pulls the helmet free, explaining that magic is long dead and there is no more Dr. Fate. Just like there's no Batman or Wonder Woman, she tells him, striking him free of his bonds and finally giving him some of the answers that he has longed for. She leads him through the crystal cavern, showing him the stables and the survivors. When he asks what happened, she merely informs him, we lost. Finally, they end at the shattered arc of the remains of the Hall of Justice. How did the villains win? Bruce demands. But Diana explains that the villains didn't win. Lex Luthor broadcast around the world and explained that the world was doomed and that everyone should just stop being good. People chose doom, she explained. And one by one, the heroes were picked off by the people that they had sworn to protect. The people tore apart Batman, Arthur, and Dinah. Then a new power rose in Gotham. Omega. The remaining heroes tried to fight back, a final war. But we lost, she tells him. Now they are going deeper underground to protect the survivors. You're not Batman. You're a ghost and Echo. But Bruce already knew this, already knew it since Alfred told him. He is actually a clone that has been imbued with the memories of Bruce Wayne, Batman. Diana might have given up hope, but Bruce hasn't. Alfred said that there are rumors about Clark, he asks, turning once more to his old friend, and Diana nods. Yes, alive in the plains of solitude. I know these rumors well, she tells him. But she saw Clark fall with her own eyes. She scoured the plains already. Lies to draw us out. She tells him more rumors. That of Omega. That he is someone born and bred in Gotham. Possibly a villain, more than likely one of your disciples. She tells him with heavy words. She finally turns, though, offering him the bat suit that she saved from the original Batman, and she tells him her plan: to take the survivors to Hades where they'll be safe. Diana, we have to fight. We have to take the world back, he tells her. But Diana knows the truth. She bids Bruce to rest for the night before turning to leave, and she leaves him with some parting words. It's good to have you back. In the morning, she returns to where she left Bruce, only to find the box with his costume in it empty. Sadness fills her eyes in the dim light of the caverns. Goodbye, Bruce, she whispers. And back on the surface, Batman stalks through the barren wasteland of the world, prepared to save a planet that doesn't want saving. And underneath his arm, the Joker smiles from within his jar. Joe Chill stirs the food he's cooking in a frying pan. He stops, reaching for one of the drawers beneath the stove. The snub nose isn't there, Mr. Chill. I took it. A voice calls from the other room, and Joe turns, fear in his eyes. And I took the shotgun from behind the stove and the 45 in the bedroom. Joe turns, a fork in his hands. I was looking for cayenne pepper, you asshole! He crosses the room, fork at the ready. You know, you're not so stealthy anymore, are you, Ears? He asks, reaching for the door, but Batman is settling in the room behind him. Luckily, neither are you. He snarls, his hand snapping out, grabbing the hand with the fork and driving it into Joe's shoulder. They twirl, spinning across the room, knocking over the frying pan. Grease splatters, catching fire on the dingy apartment. But Joe pulls himself up, yanking the fork from his shoulder, and he continues to go about cooking his meal. Batman demands to know about the child that he found in the alleyway. The boy has no records, no identification. The DNA says that it's your son. But you never had a son, Batman asks, standing behind the man as calmly as he cooks. The splatters of grease catching a flame, and the walls begin to go up behind them. And he still just cooks. He takes after me pretty good, plugging Wayne's in Crime Alley. That's right, Bruce Wayne, I know everything. He smiles. Batman reaches out, knocking the plate of food aside, pulling Joe close. Who was the boy in the alley? He demands. You mean you? Or this new one? Joe asks. Joe smiles, telling Batman that he already knows. That he's always known. Welcome to the last case that you'll ever solve, Detective. It's your house that's burning tonight, Ears. Not mine. To the ground! Joe yells, the fire reflecting in his eyes. Knock, knock! A voice calls into the darkness. Batman opens his eyes to find the head of Joker staring at him from his jar. Now, back at our current day, at the end of everything. Are you sure it's funnier that way? With the knocking first? Because I really don't think it is. Batman begins to shut his eyes, assuring the Joker that it's funnier with the knock-knock first. Go back to sleep, Joker. Can't, bud. You were yelling in your sleep. What were you dreaming about? The Clown Prince asks. Batman sighs, getting up. His horse is nearby, and the small fire has continued to simmer into the night. Actually, I don't care. Just need to ask you something important, like real important. Hear me out. We've been traveling for over a week. Comrades, partners. Am I, Rob? But Batman interrupts him, telling Joker that they need to move on. He turns, seeing a strange whirling wind coming towards them. Batman grabs the jar and his horse, trying to get away from the impossibly fast-moving windstorm. Can I be a Robin? Joker calls over the gusting wind, but Batman grabs the reins, trying to drag the horse away. I'd make this horse Robin before you, he snarls. The windstorm hits them, energy cracking as it blows over the horse. Look out! It's a Speed Force storm, dummy! Age you up to dust or down to baby cells. Before their eyes, the horse ages and it disintegrates to bones and dust. Look at that. Another perfectly good Robin dead. As Batman pulls himself above the storm, hiding in the shelter of a cave, he turns back, staring into the terrible wind, and he hears a voice. Please, Bruce! The wind howls, and before him, in the swirling cloud, it takes the images of his former friends. Faces of the members of the Speed Force begin to shift and stretch before him, melding into one horrible maw. Wally, Jay, Barry, Bart, they scream for Bruce. Help us! They cry with Batman moving to the edge, but the storm has already passed. The swirling wind moving away as rapidly as it's arrived. They push south, and at one point they're flying overhead with a bat glider. They look down, passing over Fort Waller. Within the middle was a reactor, powered by Nuclear Man. Batman watched as the creatures came out of the forest to be met by soldiers wrapped in bandages. The battle itself was fast and bloody. "We have to help," Batman whispers, but Joker merely laughs, looking at him. "Which side?" he asks with a grin. As Batman flew overhead, they watched as the forest rose up and a monstrous swamp thing lashed out against the soldiers. And they, well, flew on. In the fabricated Gotham City, though, back at the beginning of this journey, an elderly Alfred moves through the abandoned streets. He stops, looking up at the blinking Wayne Tower, and he holds up a remote to shut it off. "Oh, don't shut it all off. It's so pretty," a raspy voice calls out from the alleyway. Alfred turns, recoiling as he sees the monstrous visage of Bane rising out of the fog and a horrific scarecrow crawling along his back before lowering himself to walk on the needles that line his fingers. "Hello, Alfred. You did a bad thing. Couldn't leave it alone, could you? Couldn't just keep your head down?" Alfred nods, knowing that they were sent by their master. "He goes by Omega. Come back to Gotham. Come home. I'll take you in, make you stronger." But Alfred reaches below his coat, pulling free a shotgun that he had concealed there. "I was hoping you'd come, because I did make a terrible mistake, not killing you all when I had the chance," he shouts, racking a round and firing. The boom of the weapon echoes throughout the deserted streets, and the rounds end up sending spurts of blood from Bane. The chamber sound clicks empty with Alfred feeling the pinch of needles in his neck. "What have you done?" Alfred gasps. But from the fog, a new figure emerges, and in the shape of a Batman, a much, much darker Batman. "What I asked them to do, Alfred," Omega whispers. He steps forward, his hand reaching out to caress the old man's neck. "You did," he whispers. "You convinced them not to go to that showing of Zorro after all. You saved them. Now go to sleep, old friend." For a brief moment, Alfred can see it, his family, and he falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Batman and Joker kept moving, past the crocodile men of Fawcett City, past the imp death grounds that shrouded the cartoon mist, past the fallen machines of war and the ships of caged universe hearts, god engines, and zeta cannons. Rainan, Thanagarian, Temorarian, Apexalian, Akulin. The ships lay rotting, leaking stardust into the fields around them, and 2 weeks have passed since they've arrived in the Fields of Solitude. Batman pulls himself upward, climbing amongst the ancient Kryptonian crystals that are growing there. "How about now?" Joker asks. "No." "How about now?" "No." "How about now? Can I be Robin now?" He asks again, but Batman pulls himself up another cliff, staring into the crystalline wastelands before them. "No." "Okay. But what about?" The Joker begins, but Batman suddenly turns, taking the jar in both hands, squeezing it, screaming at the Joker. "There is no Robin, because Robin is just a good person trying to help. Who's left out there, Joker? Answer me. Who is still there?" "You're supposed to say knock knock first, aren't you?" Joker says with a smile on his face. But they're interrupted by the sound of a bomb flying out of the sky. Batman turns, diving out of the way as a red and blue rocket crashes next to him, and then he pulls himself up, staring at the ship in disbelief. "That rocket, it's Superman's," he whispers, but Batman looks up as more rockets begin to drop around him. The cliff racks and he's thrown away, crashing against more crystals, and he lays there in the snow, the Joker rolling a few feet away with the sound of crunching footsteps reaching his ears. His vision hazy as he sees a large man with an S shield on his chest stepping into view. "Clark, is that you?" Superman reaches down, picking him up out of the snow. "Sure. Shush. Shh. Rest, Bruce. It'll be all right. You made it," he tells him. Later, the two of them are walking through the crystals with Batman demanding to know what is happening, but Clark doesn't answer and just continues forward. "Why are you hiding in some cave where the world falls apart? Talk to me, damn it! What is this place?" Clark finally turns around, answering him. "Home. Take a look." They step from the caves to find a large field surrounding a simple farmhouse. Clark leads Batman to the Kent farm and inside, where Batman continues to question the unresponsive Superman. "What is wrong with you?" "Nothing is wrong with him, Batman," a voice calls from the top of the stairs. He's perfect. He's just not the Superman you're looking for," Lex tells him, his body frail, his eyes bugging out of his head. a slightly crazy smile playing across his lips as he walks down the steps. Luthor, you're alive? What is this place? Where is Superman? Batman snarls. Lex waves his arm, telling him, Superman he's all around us. Come, I'll show you. Within the barn, Batman stares at the gathering of Superman clones who stand silent and ready. But Lex continues to lead them forward, explaining that he plans on bringing Superman back. Lex, I need to know what you did so that I can fix this, Batman explains, but Lex smiles, sitting at his computer, explaining that he used technology to open up wormholes and used it to bring Superman back with his spaceship. Lex watches the screens as Batman leans in close behind him. Luthor, what did you do? So finally, Lex explains. You see, he sent Superman an invitation to debate before the world about good versus evil. Lex had sunk kryptonite shards beneath the earth, and he had used the combined powers of the Legion of Doom and Starro to make it so that after the debate, if the majority of Earth fought justice, the shards would kill Lex, and if they thought doom, then Superman would die. The world watched as these two great figures made their cases, and Lex knew that he had lost. He stood waiting for the moment when Superman would have to save him. And the ground began to shake, and Lex turned as a shard pierced through Superman's body, killing him. The body was suspended before him, with Kryptonian blood dripping onto the grass. In his control room, Lex turns, sorrow filling his eyes as he tries to explain it to Batman. It was a mistake. They turned on us too, the villains. We even made another you. Another me? A Batman to try and get control. But it didn't work. Nothing worked. The world just blew up. Lex sits back at his desk, his head in his hands as he cries. And suddenly the door creaks behind them, and that's when we see Clark standing there. Lex, he begins, and the former villain stands. What is it, my boy? What do you need? He asks. Clark suddenly rushes forward, grabbing the two of them, throwing them into the closest wall. He tosses them into the grass before a waiting Bane and Scarecrow. What did he do to you, Clark? Lex demands, his voice shrill, but Scarecrow ignores them, and the Clark clone lifts Batman over his head, ready to break him. But as he stops, a blade pierces his chest, with Diana slashing downwards, ripping through the chest of the Man of Steel, forcing him to drop Batman. You're welcome. I had it under control. Diana smiles at the man. Of course you did. It's good to see you again, Batman. Clark is there again, throwing Batman to the ground. He rears back for another punch before his arm is taken off by Diana's blade. She swings again, lopping the head off. One fall Superman won't do it, Crane. She smiles. It's a good thing. I drugged them all. He laughs from Bane's back, and the barn doors swing open with an army of Supermen emerging, flying towards the group. Diana stands ready, but she knows that there are too many, so Batman grabs Luthor, ordering him to use his tech to open a portal away from here. They start to run, with Diana telling him to open a portal to the eastern edge of the plains. They'll only follow us, Batman tells her, but Luthor tells them to go. He'll direct the Supermen towards himself. Lex Luthor, I will never forgive you for what you did, Diana tells him quickly, but I will remember this act, and I will speak of it. Lex nods at these words. To him, please, if you ever can. The Supermen converge on Luthor as the light flashes, and Batman and Diana disappear. Within a moment, the two are standing on the strange green ground. A haunted place, Diana tells him, looking down at the vast green cloak that lays at their feet. The Spectre? Batman asks, and then Diana explains that the spirit of vengeance fell when the fighting consumed heaven and hell. His cloak now serves as a portal. To where? To the place where everyone resides. Darkness is all around them as they move through the portal, and the Joker begins to argue, telling the others that he hears voices. And in the dark, Diana explains that they're floating down the river of the dead. The Joker hears the voices of all of those deaths that you feel responsible for. How can you see? Batman asks her. The lasso allows me, she tells him. Batman asks her to allow him to see as well, and he feels the coil around his wrist and the darkness recedes. The boat floats through the murky waters, drifting in a fog. He looks around them. The voices are starting. I can hear them. Who do you hear? He asks Diana. My sisters. Too many people. You? Batman turns to the shore and he sees, well, everyone. The collection of heroes that he let down stand on the banks looking at him. Their eyes are sightless, yet shift as the boat drifts past. But a voice calls out louder than the others, and the heroes part to show Alfred standing amongst them. No, Alfred, you're alive! I just left you! Diana reaches for her friend, telling him that she'll remove the lasso. No, I'm fine. What if this was all a mistake, Diana? He asks. What if the world won't go back? What if this is our Eden? Diana nods, telling him that she believes that this is true. But I've also been around long enough for the world to step forward and backwards. Nothing is final. We must be who we are regardless of whether we win them over or lose them, she tells them. Eventually, they make their way out of the underworld until they finally make their way to Gotham City. Batman stares shocked at what his city has become. Flashing overhead is the Omega symbol, and Diana explains that it holds everyone under its sway with the anti-life equation. Guards on the wall turn and watch them as the two heroes walk through the streets. I doubt there is anyone left here to help us, Diana explains. So what's the plan? Take back the damn city, Batman explains simply. But suddenly the two pause as voices echo in the darkness. Who? They call, and Diana readies herself. Who's there? She demands, and the voices echo her. Who are we, traitor? We are the Court of Owls. The voice hisses at them as the talons suddenly appear out of the mist, weapons drawn. And you have been sentenced to death. Bruce and Diana stand ready to fight. That voice. Listen to me. It's Bruce. Is that you under there? He asks, and the leader of the talons pushes forward, stepping through his men. He reaches for his mask, pulling it free to reveal a former friend. My God, Omega is Dick Grayson? The dwellers of the old Batcave gather around as a blind Jim Gordon examines Batman's face. Everyone remains quiet, and finally Jim says, Yep, just like that. What was old is new again. Holy hell, it's really you, isn't it? That's a bat jawline if I ever caressed one. Dick explains that since Omega consolidated and moved everything to Wayne Tower, they wanted to still be close, and that's why the Owls took this as their new hideout. But do know that when this started, they fought as bats. But that symbol, it became something different, something tainted. Batman looks around, stating that he's just glad that they're alive. All of them. You've been fighting this whole time? And Dick goes on telling him that there have been many wars. But when Omega rose through the ranks, he was like nothing that they had faced before. He was a Batman, but mad with passion. Stronger, faster, took over the entire city. There was a point where even they were under his control. It was Tim who saved them. He'd fallen in the early years, had his neck broken. Even though he couldn't physically fight, he worked on developing blockers for Omega's technology. However, Omega's new signal, there's no blockers that can cancel out that one. Batman rips off one of the mug shots from the tack board, yelling, That is why we need to fight now! Where's Tim? We can... Dick stops him, telling him, You don't understand. The fight already happened. We lost Tim a few days ago. Everyone's dead but us. We led a full-scale attack, and it failed. The new amplifier is locked away on Arkham Island, while the signal itself is inside of Wayne Tower. Only Omega's DNA can open up that doorway. Batman talks out loud, trying to formulate a plan, but Barbara Gordon yells at him to stop and look around. All these costumes, they belonged to everyone who died. Jason, Kate, Cassandra, all of them, even Damian. How many more need to die? Batman turns to everyone, telling them that he may not be the first Bruce Wayne, but he's the right Batman for this job. If I share the same DNA as Omega, then we can get into Wayne Tower. What about Arkham? Dick and Barbara's daughter Bryce mentions that they might be able to get into Arkham, that they would just have to speak to her. Batman then asks, Would you rather be living here in a cave or instead on the outside? If so, what did the real Bruce die for? What did Tim die for? The cave goes silent, but Jim laughs. Ha ha! Screw it! Who wants to live forever? Am I right? As everyone begins to gather to come up with a plan, Joker then says, I have one little favor to ask. Just one tiny thing. Later, the old warehouse, Batman looks into Catwoman's eyes, slowly taking off his mask, and she stops him, telling him not to. That little red string over there? She's supposed to use that when they enter this place. Everyone looks up and Dick asks, You really have become a villain that works with Omega, haven't you? Catwoman tells him that there was a deal. Was. Them still standing should count for something, right? She leads them into the back for supplies, and Batman asks if she's going to be safe, but Catwoman puts her fingers on Batman's lips, telling him, Shh, just go. Go before I change my mind and pull that string. Two teams were formed, and Diana led the Owls to Arkham while Batman and Joker sneak into the sewers to enter Wayne Tower. The Joker was delighted to witness this new Batman in action, punching and kicking and biting. It all just makes you want to smile! After defeating the last Omega guard in the sewer, Batman calls out to Joker asking where is he. But the answer he gets is something metallic, striking him in the back of the head and launching him into the wall. A mechanized guard walks through the halls stating, "Hail Omega," and then proceeds to beat Batman to an inch of his life. Batman struggles as his head is pushed farther into the sewer walls, and he calls out to Joker. But Joker responds, telling him, "Not Joker, Robin!" Joker stands up in Tim's old Robin robotic suit and unloads his machine guns, laughing hysterically as the clips run dry. Batman pushes the lifeless guard's body off of him, asking, "Where the hell were you?" And Joker tells him, "Sorry, I was working on my mask. It was fate. I was walking along and this grayish, sort of brownish cloth floated by. After putting it on, I realized it should have been outside of the glass helmet. Should have been the outside. Robin would have worn it on the outside." Meanwhile, over at Arkham, Diana and her team sneak in, and they easily get past the guards. And as they look at Clayface, Zaz, Freeze, and Croc staring back at them, Diana says that she's glad that the Jervis tech that Catwoman gave them is working. But is it really working on them? The villains continue looking without reacting, and the group slips by the door that they're guarding. Barbara then says, "Okay, the next step is to get into the next room but Bryce cracks the code on the locked door, and as the metal doors open, Diana covers her mouth, simply stating, "Oh no." Back in Wayne Tower, Batman activates the DNA door leading into Omega's Batcave. But instead of seeing all of the tributes that you would normally have in the Batcave, Omega has nothing but his trophies of a conquest laid outside. The costumes of Sinestro, Black Adam, even Brainiac hang in capsules, and Batman asks, "What happened to him? This isn't what Batman would do." Joker looks in the capsule where his costume hangs and tells him, "People change." Batman then asks, what if the Batman of this time is the right one for the world? What if this clone of Batman is the one that is meant for this time? One that deals with the atrocities that have happened to the world. But before he could think any further on it, Batman notices something and shouts, "Move!" However, just as they're getting ready to, purple bindings begin to wrap around the two of them, with the Joker stating, "I was beginning to think that this was a trap, Batman!" Batman tells him, "Stay still. Those ties are Wayne tech. The more you struggle, the more that they'll constrict." And a deep, gruff voice then says, "Actually, I've made some adjustments. They get tighter whether you struggle or not. New and improved. My name is Omega. Welcome, Bruce, to the end of your long journey." Meanwhile, over at Arkham, Diana runs into the guarded room to see their old friend Martian Manhunter floating, infected by Omega's signal. Diana rushes to the front, calling out to him, and Manhunter looks down. Die. And Diana smiles, shouting, "That's it, I'm Diana!" But Manhunter then gets ready to finish his sentence, snarling, "Die!" Before she has a chance to react, the doors leading inside suddenly begin to close. But back with Batman, he sits in a chair, stripped of all of his clothing, as Omega tells him, "You fell for it. Wasn't sure it was going to work, but here we are. This chair once granted all knowledge within the universe, the Mobius chair, but no more. It's been repurposed like everything else in this world. Once the switch is flipped, your mind will be rewritten to make you you'll become one of my soldiers, a perfect hero for this age." But just as Omega reaches out, Joker lunges in, shouting, "No! I'll kill you!" Omega turns back, jumping up, kicking Joker down using both feet, and he begins to stomp on the glass helmet. The sound of crunching bone and glass can be heard as Batman is yelling, "Stop it!" But Omega steps back. "Don't feel bad for the Joker. He died as he always wanted, fighting Batman." Batman grits his teeth, telling him, "The real Batman would be ashamed of you. You're nothing but an abomination. The Joker was more of a Batman than you were." Omega turns back. "I'd have to disagree, because I am the original Bruce Wayne." Omega takes off his mask to reveal the aged, the scarred, the mangled face of the one and only true Bruce Wayne. Batman turns away, telling him, "It's not possible." And Omega leans in, telling him, "It is me. I let all those people in back then, and they broke me. Broke me so bad it took me years to even stand up. But I'm back. No magic, no pits, just a vision. A plan to save them. To really save them this time. As for the others, old friends being where they are, and new friends being where they are, at this moment, all the villains are closing in on Dick and the others while Martian Manhunter deals with Diana." Batman screams, "I will stop you, and I will bring you down!" Omega smiles, pulling his mask bat down, telling him, "That's the plan. And once it's all over, You will be the one to replace me. Batman tells him, I will never be like you. But Omega presses a button telling him, a lot of people have said that. I'll be on the roof when you wake. Batman sighs as the door closes and the machines whirl to life, but that's when there's coughing coming from the ground. Joker tells him, I remember it. The thing I've been trying to remember. It wasn't a poem. It was a case. A case I specifically made for you. Batman asks, what are you talking about? And Joker goes on, you were talking about the boy in the alley. That was all me. I used everything that I'd been saving. I went all out. The boy, the files, it was all made up. See, I wanted to challenge you, to make you stronger. But the funny thing is, you didn't change. When they fell, the butler, he took what was left of me and he hung it in the desert to stare at nothing. Never knew if he was upset because things went too far or not far enough. That guy upstairs, he isn't Batman. Not anymore. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. What do you think? Go on, say something. Batman listens to the countdown of the machine, and then he spits out the penny that Alfred had hidden for him a while ago. A short while later, up on top, Bruce listens in on the fighting between Diana, Dick, and the others and tells himself, it'll all be over soon. Soon a new signal will shine. The real bat signal. A cry they have to hear and follow. Isn't that right? Batman steps onto the roof and tells him, oh, you're going to cry. The two charge at each other, exchanging blow after blow, spilling blood with each hit. But as Omega punches one last time and knocks Batman back down, he grabs a spike with Darkseid's head on it, telling him, you do belong here. Not as a replacement, but as an effigy. Omega takes the spike, stabbing it down into Batman, pinning him to the ground, telling him, now I've got to get to the damn machine and make another one. One that's a worthy successor. You stay here, a symbol of everything that had to die, for a new world to be born. Activate amplification. The sound of the signal can be heard as it gains power. And over in Arkham, Scarecrow injects Dick with a toxin, shouting, I've had enough of this and this stupid girl. The syringe is pulled out and aimed at Bryce, but as the needle shoots forward, Dick jumps in the way. Bryce shouts for her dad as he foams at the mouth, and inside of the locked room, the Manhunter hears the order to activate. A wire connects to his forehead and begins to pump up the signal so that the world can hear. Omega looks over the city shouting, yes, hear it! A world with no more anger, no more fighting, no screams, no shrieks, a world that is finally quiet. And then there's a loud boom as Omega is struck from behind. Batman is standing there holding the spike with Darkseid's head on it, and he swings again. Omega asks, can't you see? They'll kill each other over and over again. They'll never listen to. But Batman swings a third time, bashing Darkseid's head into Omega, telling him, so be it. If they listen, they listen. If they don't, they don't. But Batman isn't special. That's all Batman is and all he'll ever be. Batman brings the spike down, stabbing it into Omega. And Omega begins to cough. Damn you, kid. Batman tells him, look, you say you had it all planned out. But what if that's not why? What if, despite all of this, you see something? So you did hold the door open, just a crack, one last time. Over the next few days, the small resistance team recovers as everyone proudly wears their bat suits, even with the addition of another Batgirl. As they wait for there to be a sunny day, a portal opens and from the outside a small ship shoots out. It's what Lex did before trying to recreate Superman. But instead of Lex capturing the infant, it was Batman ready to save him. The ship crash lands on the spot that's marked, and as the door of the ship opens up, a baby sits there. Batman reaches in, pulling out a child Clark, looking on at a brighter tomorrow, a world that he has once again saved.
Thank you for sticking out with The Last Night on Earth. Now, I want to know what you guys think. Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? It's a little bit crazy. It's a little bit off the wall, but it is the conclusion to Scott Snyder's Batman run. Let me know what you think about it down below, and don't forget to follow us over at Twitter at Comicstorian, and you can find us live every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Comicstorian. We bring you various comic book podcasts and other discussions, and would love to have you over there.